Welcome at Les Batisses. The farm consists of an old building called Longère in French, surrounded by 8 hectares of natural meadow. Cows are still grazing on 6 hectares, so we fenced in the rest to create the flower farm. It is located at the top of a hill in the heart of Périgord in France. But before diving into this green paradise, let's take a step back. I was a designer for 12 years, living at the top of a Parisian building without having planted anything in the real dirt before. I attended Floret online workshop in 2020 and started dreaming of what it would be like to transform Les Batisses into a flower farm. It took me a bit more than 1 year to prepare the project, do some math, and in the fall I planted fruit shrubs and bulbs in the ground. This is the field from bird's view. Here is the first patch I planted, following a map I designed during 2020. It is close to undergrowth, soil is well balanced, and despite few wheelbarrows of stones, all went pretty well. I divided the space into categories, the annuals and the perennials. Then I scattered trees and shrubs all around. The very first things that went into the ground were the trees that we can see here, a long line of shrubs, 40 approximately, that we planted in September 2020. The idea was to break a bit the space, help biodiversity, as almost each of them are different, break the wind too, and later, in the coming years, use the foliage and the flowering branches. Here we are in the perennial patch. That's the very first beds that I started to do in 2020. We have some irises, some roses, and many others like eleniums and a share and everything. I started to invest in perennials first because I felt that it was a good way to have some flowers sometimes when you don't have any annuals or when you are at the beginning of your farm. That could help me to have something in the back. And the good thing about perennials is that you don't have to water them so much after 1 or 2 seasons, and they are quite low maintenance at the end. And of course, because of the climate change, that's a good investment I did, I think, at the very beginning. Here is probably my favorite place in the field. It's the pond. It's a natural one. There is no tarp at the bottom. The water comes from a natural spring which is all around this field. We have many other sources over there and on the other side over there, but this one was covered with brambles when we arrived, and I really wanted to recreate a nice place around it. Like, we are working on it, but to have a wood bench close to it, maybe arches and flowers, wetland plants, because the soil is quite damp here. So yeah, we are still working on how to maintain it because there are some grasses at the surface, so we are still in the process to see how we can deal with it. But yeah, the place is really great. In the evening during the summer, it's really nice to, when you are picking the flowers up on the hill in the tunnels or on the beds around it, you can hear the frogs singing. So that's really nice, and I think it brings to the field another kind of biodiversity. And yeah, we are still discovering it, but I'm really happy about this place. I am not certified organic, as I think there is not enough organic seeds in the market to justify all the paperwork it requires. For now, I prefer having the best practices for the soil, birds, insects and human beings living here than having a stamp of approval. In 2021, I used compost from a farm close to mine, green manure to prevent pests and disease, and that's it. For the rest, I trust in birds of prey living in the area, frogs and cats, and in the high diversity within my crops. I tried different techniques to start working the soil. This land has probably never been cultivated during the past 70 years, and cows packed it down. We started in 2020 with a subsoiling plough to bring back air and water deep below. We drew lines in the ground to set the future beds, avoiding to plough the full area. I also covered the soil with black tarps. That was a brilliant way to get rid of weeds and work directly in it. A quick pass of cultivator, a bit of compost, and that's enough. The last thing I tried to break the soil and start cultivating the field was to, just after removing the black tarp, I sowed a mix of cover crop and then I let it grow, mowed it, let it grow again, and now I'm going to put a black tarp again on it to let the winter, and then at the beginning of the spring I will uncover it and plant directly in the soil. I will see if it works. It's an experiment. So the idea is to see if it's better than just removing the black tarp and plant directly in it, because as this field hasn't been cultivated for 70 years maybe, I just wanted to see if planting first things in it with some taproots and things which enrich the soil before having my own annuals in it. I just wanted to see how it could work. Having such an extensive piece of land is really great for many reasons. Of course, it is big and it's nice to work in it, but during the peak season I don't have to make my rotation too quickly and be in the rush, because you have many things to remove, like irrigation, landscape fabric and everything, and sometimes I could experiment a second bloom and that I didn't expect, so that was quite nice to have like the place to work. And I started to do my first beds of annuals last year close to the high tunnels, and I just, as you can see, I didn't finish to clean it, so I'm a bit late, but that's fine because I discovered that sometimes the flowers could regrow the second year, so I'm gonna experiment it again. So for this year I'm gonna use this part of the field to plant my annuals, and I'm gonna slowly clean this one and make sure it's gonna be okay for the year 2023, then to replant it. So it allows me to have some kind of rotation, but on a long time. And also on the other hand, when you have an extensive land, you have to maintain it, like during the spring, summer and fall. A little bit less during the winter. You have to mow the lawn, the grass, and that's a huge work. This is the moment I use the bigger engine we have here, the big tractor we have, and yeah, that's to mow everything and to avoid being in the forest at the end. Regarding my tools, it is as simple as that. I have 3 different motorized tools, like this cultivator, which is the exact size of my beds, which is like 80 centimeters large, and I have this mower that I use for difficult part in the field to mow branches and when the field is not quite flat. And this one is for the small pathways I have in between my beds. It is 50 centimeters large. So that's it for the motorized tool. And then I have few. It is as simple as that because I don't have much difficulties to work on my field. The soil is quite sandy and it's well balanced, so I don't have fancy tools. I have hoe. This one, which is a V-shape hoe, is really nice to weed and to stay still. This one is a classic one. The rakes, shovels, and for the hand tools, I just need to clean them for the winter. But I have this ori knife, which is really good to plant and weed, especially the taproots plants, those snips, and this Korean hoe as well, which is really good and really sharp. And that's it. Regarding facilities, I was lucky that the house came with many empty rooms and spaces. It's not renovated yet and we can use it. As it is a stone building, it keeps the coolness in the summer and it's not freezing during the winter. And it's fully dark inside, which is perfect to store my dahlia tubers and summer bulbs. For now, it looks it's working. We'll see how it goes in 2 months. And now we are inside our house in the mudroom, and it's where I was doing all the packagings and shipping, even the pallets. Everything was made here. This shelf is in the house, in my office / guest room, and I used to have 2 or 3 like that to start my seeds, and then when the babies are strong enough, they go outside in the field in the nursery. In late 2020, we built this nursery. It's only 6 square meters, but it works really nice. All the seedlings of 2021 were put in there at the very beginning because I didn't have any high tunnels. And it's vented on the roof with 2 windows, and it's really light. It's polycarbonate and aluminium. So the thing is that during the summer it can be quite hot and baked everything in 1 hour, but I think to start a farm that's a good thing to have at the very beginning. In May 2021 we built those 2 high tunnels. They are each 30 meters long, and this one, which is the bigger one, is 6 meters wide and the other one is 4 meters wide. They are made the same way. You have some ropes on the side along which you can pull up the plastic on top of it, so it allows the tunnels to be ventilated on both sides. And on this large model you have the facade which can be open as well, so it means that during the hot season you have air everywhere. And I think that maybe that was the reason why I didn't have any powdery mildew, or just a little bit at the end of the season. So that was quite okay. And here you can see that I kept the chrysanthemums in the field for the winter, because I plan to take some cuttings and reuse them for 2022. Here you have the other one, a smaller one, but it's really nice because it's part nursery and part plantings. It's a bit a mess inside because we didn't finish to clean everything up. So we built those large tables to put all the seedlings during the end of winter, early spring, and then spring and summer. And we're gonna build 2 other ones. As you can see, we are still in the process here, so I'm gonna have a large space to work, and when the weather is nice enough to work in there during the spring and summer, that's really great, because the seedlings can be started there instead of in my office. So yeah, you have a little bit less than half of it which is for the nursery, and then you have the beds, but they are still dormant, and I plan to cover it. I let some sweet peas in the field, in the dirt also, but yeah, I'm still working on how to deal with it during the winter. Regarding irrigation, as I designed the whole field in 2020, I chose to go for a permanent system. We buried a little less than 300 meters of pipes, and I chose drip tape system for beds. During one of the most rainy months of 2021, after 1 month of drought. It was probably the hardest moment of 2021 for me. Having all the seedlings ready to go in the ground in April, but without any watering system ready, I urge everyone to help me on this task. And then, when it was even not finished, it poured rain for the whole month in May. Everything was underwater, and seedlings were still waiting. Well, I think it's what they call farming. Here is our last project, but not the least. This is my studio. I plan to host workshop in the spring here. So for 2021 we clean it up. We tried to clean it up as much as we could, because we had a ceiling on the top with lots of hay everywhere, and many pieces of metal, many dust and everything. So we just cleaned everything up. We poured a concrete slab. We did some window to have a nice view on the field. And so now in 2022 we're gonna work on this workbench to clean my flowers and arrange them. We're gonna do some setup for the workshop too. And then what I found last year, I bought this second-hand sink, which is really deep and large. And this is great to handle flowers and clean the buckets and everything. And I bought these insulated panels too, because our next big thing is to build a walk-in cooler. So we're gonna install it at the back of the studio over there. It's gonna be a 12 square meters place, and yeah, we are working on it. So let's see how it goes. Well, that's the end of the farm tour at Les Batisses. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you.
Allez, on est parti. De toute façon, t'es pas flou, t'es flou. Allez, ouais, hop, go.